Welcome, this is HR That Works President Don Finn. In roughly 5 minutes, I'm going to share some of the insights I've gathered in helping people understand that transition from being an employee to a manager. And the first thing to ask is, do they really want the role? Now, you can't just assume that they really want it and say, I'd like to promote you into management, and they're really too embarrassed to say that they don't want it. Now, some people don't want the role because they don't want the added responsibilities, they don't want the added hours, they don't want to be viewed as not a buddy to the people they work with anymore. So you have to make sure that their answer that I don't want it is an okay answer. You don't want to force them to feel that they have to answer a certain way when they really don't want to answer. You know, half of all employees don't want to be promoted into a management position, and in large part because of the reason I just share with you. They might not shoot for their stars as high as you want them to shoot for their stars. Don't try to make them into who they're not, okay? So again, do they really want it? Is this your idea or is it mostly their idea? Number two, can they manage people? Now, typically what we do is we'll take somebody who is the most adept at a skill. You know, you've been around cleaning the rooms and you clean them really well longer than anybody else, and now you become the manager. Well, as we all know, just because people have a good skill set doesn't mean they have a good management set. Can they really manage people? And a couple of things around that. If you were one of my clients, I would make sure you go to Zero Risk HR and get the Clear Direction program, have that manager assess themselves and have their subordinates assess themselves, and it will tell you this is the best way to manage him, the best way to manage her, and this is something I've done with my employees, helps me to manage James and Dana and everybody else around here better. So you should do that, and you should never ignore the rule of 7. Don't ask anybody to manage more than 7 people at a time. In fact, if you're trying to manage more than 7 people at a time, stop it because it's actually impossible to do so. Now, I was at a SHRM workshop and they were talking about how to deal with failed management. And what they didn't have the insight to do is to realize you have to have the conversation about when somebody doesn't work out in advance of promoting them. So how do we let them go back to the rank and file position gracefully if that's what they want to do, if that's what we want to do, and that's in a sense our upfront agreement. I'm not going to beat you up about it. If that's what you really want to do, is fine. I'd rather not lose a good employee by creating a poor manager. Okay, so if going back to be a good employee is what makes sense for either one of us, that's what we agree to do up front. But you have that conversation up front, how to do it gracefully, because the fact is half of managers are going to be better than the other half, and I don't want any below half managers in my place. So then the important thing for them to also understand when you get into management, I did a little separate demo video on this itself, about the distinction between being responsible to employees and for employees. And the newsflash is that manager is not responsible for people, they're responsible for themselves. His or her obligation is being responsible to them, which means you put those employees in a position where they're capable of succeeding. Okay? This is true of any good leadership and management. So understanding, because if they get caught in this responsibility for thing, you'll just see their time get sucked away. Will you do this for me? Will you do that for me? Will you do that for me? And they'll be very ineffective as a manager. Now, obviously, one of the smart things to do is assign somebody as a mentor who's been managing or supervising for a while so they can go to them, how do I deal with this type of situation? And take them through some management training. You know, there's plenty of management training on HR That Works you can take them through. Have them watch the team building webinar or the integrity dividend or some of those other great leadership and management videos that they can access on the website at any time. Plus, there's plenty of reports that they can learn from. And last but not least is now that you're in management, you have to both dress and act the part. So if a guy's income hasn't been where he can afford to buy management-looking clothes and all of a sudden he's got a management position, maybe the best thing you can do is give him a $500 gift certificate to go shopping with and buy some management-type clothes. He also realizes he has to act differently. You know, of course, you're going to have him do the sexual harassment training and all those types of things, because you can't speak or act like a rank-and-file worker if you're now going to be in management. You know, you have to be a little more politically correct, all those types of things. So this is just basic nuts and bolts stuff I see in that transition, and when we don't do these things, we don't do them at both great risk to the company and to some individual's career. Hope that helped you. We'll see you on the next training. Thank you.